guys, so today's lesson we're going to go ahead and work on 2-point perspective, and we're pretty much going to set up our paper the exact same way for our notes. And what we are going to do is basically add a new vanishing point on our horizon line. So we will start by making our horizon line. And this time I'm going to put it a little bit lower on our paper. So make sure that it's parallel to the bottom of your paper. Go ahead and go across. Alright, so we still have our horizon line. That has not changed. But this time we're going to put 2 vanishing points towards the very edge. So I'm going to label that V1 and V2. And in the very center, or very close to the center, I'm going to put in my first perpendicular line that comes all the way down to my horizon line. And from here, I can draw my first set of converging lines. So I'm going to go in and do those dashed lines all the way down on both sides. Alright, and now what I can do is do my perpendicular lines somewhere on that converging line next to it. So I'll go ahead and put one right here. There's my first perpendicular line, and I'll put my second right over here. Now I can go back to my converging line and make it a full line instead of dashed. Solid line, I guess, would be the word I'm looking for. And now I have in the first part of my building. In order to get the lines on my building, what I can do now is go in and do my dots equidistant, which we talked about the other day, means equal distance apart going down. And then I'm going to go ahead and make my last dot here, and that is going to end up being my first floor where I put windows and doors and stuff. So, same thing with our converging lines. I can go ahead and draw in the lines on the building so that they all come down and meet to my vanishing point on this side. So I'm being careful to make sure that each time I'm looking at my ruler to make sure I'm on my point and my vanishing point. And I'm just dragging those lines over to the side of the building. Alright, now that I've got my last one in, I'm going to go ahead and pick where my bottom of my windows are going to be and put in a really light line. So now I can come in and draw my windows. I'll do my door next. It's going to come all the way down, and then my last window. No, I'm just going to make these all doors. I'm going to have a really fancy building here. Alright, so I've got those in. So all of the lines that go back in space towards the left of my paper come to V1. If I was going to do the same thing on the other side, they're going to go to my second vanishing point. So same thing here. So once you get this method down, it can go really quickly. You could use the same method to put bricks on the side of a building and get that detail in there. But just remember, the farther back in space it goes, the less detailed it gets. So I'm not gonna worry about putting windows in the bottom side of that building. And what I'm gonna go ahead and do now is add in a building behind it. So what I'm gonna do is what I'm going to draw in is 2 more perpendicular lines to my horizon line. And I'm gonna go above this line here. And then I'm gonna put a short one right over here. And what I can do now is draw in 2 buildings. One over here, so I can do my perpendicular, or converging line to that one. And then over here to this side would come to vanishing point 2. All right, and then we don't really need to continue it over here because this building is going to disappear behind the first building we drew. I can pick my second point over here. We'll say this building ends right there. I can come back in, make that a solid line. And then same thing over here for our short line. Everything that goes to the left is going to go to vanishing point 1. So I can just have that guy disappear behind my building, right? But still that vanishing or converging line's there. And then this guy will have a converging line over to point 2 because it's going to the right of our paper. So I'll pick another spot, do my perpendicular line, and then I can come back in and darken up that line. And I'm not going to worry too much about putting any detail on those buildings. We can go in and erase out lightly the converging lines that overlap the building, but any of them that are out in the sky, I want you to go ahead and leave those there. So what I want you guys to do is add a 3rd building behind these guys. All right, so it should be taller and disappear into the background. The next step that we're going to do is draw in our street below. So at the vanishing point, we're going to figure out where about the middle of our paper is, which should have been about, we're here, and that's where we're going to put in our street. So I'm just going to lightly put that line in, and I'm going to pick a spot that is 1 inch to either side of that to draw to. So I'm going to take my vanishing point 1 and come to my first line and draw that in. Vanishing point 2, come to my second dot over here and draw that guy in. Next, I'm going to pick a point just a little bit below our street, or not our street, our building, to put in a sidewalk so that people don't get run over. And I'm just going to bring in that solid line to both vanishing points. All right, and notice how I turn my paper when I work, right? That's going to help get those straight lines and use that ruler every time. And now I'm going to pick a point around halfway down the paper, and that's where I'm going to put 2 dots to put in the dashes for my road lines. So I'm just going to come in and really lightly put those in. And now, with vanishing point 1, I can come in and do my cross points for my dashes. So remember, they're going to be bigger and closer together. Sorry, bigger and farther apart, and then get smaller and closer together the farther back in space they go. Now I can come in and erase out the lines that I put in to figure out where these dashes go. Right, and now I've got a few road things over there. And so here I've got lines that are going to recede back in space again, so I'm going to take V2 And now I can put in the dashes over here on this side. Again, making sure that they're getting smaller and closer together the more we go back. And then erasing out the parts in the middle that we don't need. All right. So, our vocab word that we want to talk about is worm's eye view. Why might two-point perspective be called worm's eye view? Where does a worm live? Right in the ground. So the reason we call this is because a low horizon line is sometimes called a worm's eye view because it can appear that you are looking at something above you while laying on the ground or from below everything, right? We're seeing up. So laying on the ground. All right, so go ahead and give yourself some room to write in your own easy to remember definition. And the last one we're going to do is two-point perspective. Why do we think this is called two-point perspective? Right? You can flip back to your notes, look at one-point perspective because it's pretty much the same definition. So it is the drawing method that shows how things we want to write appear, my bad. Appear to get smaller as they get further away in space. Converging at how many vanishing points? 2 vanishing points on the horizon line. All right, so if you remember, what I want you to add is another building behind the center building, or the first one we just built. And then I want you to add in a sidewalk. On our side of the street. Or here, right? And I want you to go ahead and put in those crossbars as well, right? Which you're gonna have to use both vanishing points to create that sidewalk just like we did here. All right, and then the last thing I want you to do is add in some details to the back buildings. Right, so some details on this one and the third one that you're gonna add in, and that is literally just a little bit of detail to practice those converging lines, But remember, it should be less detail or lighter than this middle building. All right? So, go ahead and get started on that. And good luck.